I did that, and I was listening to Shirley Horn, and I've been listening to Shirley Horn for the past, this one a couple of albums. This song called Estate, I've heard a couple of different versions of it, and I was listening to it a lot, in the summer. I wish I remembered all of the words, but it's very much about acceptance. She's talking about is like loving summer and missing it, but it's underneath the cover of winter. And it's about remembering love and yeah, anyway, it's a very tender, very moody thing, but it's about time passing
Mm.
and and acceptance. And that's something I'm kind of very conscious of these days, of the things that I wanted to pursue 5 years ago that maybe not the things I want to or not the things I should pursue. Um,
To do with the natural progression of having a fashion empire, the what sort of steps go after each other or more personal things that you thought you were pursuing?
oh, I think this was more personal. This wasn't really about work.
Mm.
The work, I don't know. I don't think I really change about my perception about work. I feel the same urgency, the same, and it's almost rage that I had when I started. I feel like there are things that I want to see that are not out there that I want to see, and so I have to make them myself. And there's things that I want to promote aesthetically, and, it probably has a lot to do with ego, I'm afraid, that I want to modify or customize everything around myself. I assume it's some kind of search for control and, some search for
Immortality or yeah.
immortality. Immortality.
'Cause I wanted to ask you, because one of the signatures your signatures as a designer is how you emphasize proportion and how you show like in your last show for men and women, and you had this like the lower leg, like this pillowy or like you're wearing today, this sort of boot cut leather of the knee down proportion, and it's so graceful and unusual, and you seem to have this sort of amazing ability to exaggerate or change proportion, and you embody your clothes with these sort of almost mythological elements. I'm always really interested in mythology and how to sort of have a prism where people open their minds and hearts by looking at what you're wearing. And I think fashion can do that when it's really well expressed, which you did. And I wondered how you came to this thing to do with proportion and how it reflects back about maybe how you feel about your own. Have you ever had an obsession about your own proportion? Because I certainly did, but I'm always captivated by how you show that in your work.
Well, distortion and exaggeration is always what I'm going for, and distorting the human figure is so much more profound than doing an embroidery that takes 7,000 hours. And I think it's braver, and I think the message is you can think outside the box, literally. When you exaggerate like that, you are promoting open mindedness and acceptance and tolerance and all these great things. I've told this story a lot how my physically I wasn't very satisfied with myself. I was very fleshy and I had little girl nipples, like jelly bean nipples. And I wanted, BB gun nipples. But anyway, I had soft jelly bean, not jelly bean, jelly.
Jelly tot, maybe?
Hmm?
Jelly tot? You know, jelly tots, they're like little domes.
Yeah, it was a
But
little dome. It was definitely a little dome. And I remember actually that when I was in early high school, I remember that I wanted to wear t-shirts, but I was embarrassed of them. So I would tape band-aids over my nipples because they puffed out so much. So there was that. And then my shoulders were very narrow and my hips were kind of wide. Then in my 30s, or late 20s, I think Michelle and I got together when I was 27 or 28. She kind of she was going to the gym and I started going with her, and so she kind of encouraged me to go to the gym because I was drinking so much too. She thought that I needed to sweat out the booze. So which I did, which was a good idea. But anyway, then I got into that with a trainer, and then I started taking steroids and totally changed my body. I mean, the steroids made me big and puffy, but they made the shoulders wider, and they did things, the steroids. And then when I stopped taking the steroids, all of the puffiness evaporated, and all of a sudden underneath, I had this new scaffolding. I
Wow.
had I had the BB gun nipples that I always wanted. I had pecs, I had shoulders, like, it was magic. But changing my body like that, it changed my attitude about clothes. Like,
Mm.
clothes didn't matter that much anymore because I felt like I had profoundly exaggerated and distorted, um, myself in such a total way that satisfied my need for adornment or for how I presented myself. Now, of course, I'm distorting to a ridiculous level. I mean, the shoulder pads, obviously, these aren't my shoulders, but and then recently, I was wearing in the summer, I was wearing very deep V-necks because my cleavage, my tits were so good, or they were at their peak. And I thought, this is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah.
So the V-neck's gonna get lower, the heels are gonna get higher, the shoulders are gonna get wider.
I think this is one of the joys of getting older, is that you just appreciate it so much more when it's there. You think, I have to show this because I'm just disappearing into the horizon. So I'm
I
gonna, like that film, The Producers, where he screams out of the window, flaunt it, baby, flaunt it. And I believe in that more and more as time
I
goes
have to
past.
assault people with my tits while I can.
Definitely.
And now the hair is going, but actually, when I look at it, this is kind of the hair that I always wanted because my hair was always like a little too thick and bushy and it was
Mm.
curly, so I had to have it chemically straightened all the time. And then it started thinning out. Now I have like a bit of a bald spot on the crown of my head. But I always liked Riff Raff from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And that's kind of the look that I'm going for, kind of like sleazy long hair. And I'm getting there. I'm getting that Riff Raff hair I was onto it like when I was 16. I was thinking Riff Raff, that's what I want to look like. So, um,
It's very angelic looking, your hair. I remember watching that video that you did with Tim Blanks where you're dyeing your hair in the sink and the cat comes along, and it's just so romantic, and it was a great, great image, and your hair looked great in that.
that was one of those things where I thought, this is an opportunity to promote my values. I'm going to be this silly old queen dyeing his eyebrows that's going to that is going to tell some 16-year-old that this is what you can be and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
No, really, that message came through. I found it I got a lot from that. You can be how you are. Your own qualities are the things to, kind of live by or work up or validate, just instead of trying to do the airport on them and sort of homogenize. So I loved that film.
I
It
was
was
just listening to that music.